a coup, attempted coup on Gordon Brown and half-hearted support from his cabinet colleagues, is it time that the British people put Labour out of its misery?
Shapya Khorsandi, what do you make of all those events? And
well,
do you think it's a sign of terminal decline?
Jeff Hoon is a part of the same cabinet that went to war with Iraq. I don't know what they thought we'd achieve. It's like, really? You guys are going to get in instead? Brilliant. It's a real... Labour's in a real pickle. And I say that with a very heavy heart, because I don't think that if there had been a Tory or a Lib Dem party in power, they would have done things differently with regard to Iraq. You may raise your eyebrows at me, but I'm not sure.
Well, as someone who went on the march against the
Iraq
war,
I understand that, but if there's power at stake...
We're talking about Gordon Brown.
Alas, the plot wasn't about Iraq. It should have been.
I know. What I'm talking about my allegiance to
Labour.
To Labour. I said that out loud? OK.
Well, I said it out loud and you repeated it. So
yes, you did. But I don't know. Let's see about the next election. I think that it's a mess. I don't even know where to start with the coup. It was, to be honest, it just looked like. It looked so desperate and it looked so clumsy, and I don't really know what else to say about it. It was just a bit, kind of a bit embarrassing. A bit
embarrassing, all right. The person there in the grey, yes, you, sir. Yeah. No, back there near the back. Yes. Speak. With your spectacles on. That's it.
To me, the worst thing about the coup was a reaction from David Miliband. He thinks he's won the trophy before he's entered the competition.
Well, you know, they're already into mutual recriminations after it. I mean, this is real crazy gang conspiracy. They are very, very bad plotters in the Labour Party. They hide behind the knife and they stab with the cloak. It was total incompetence. But the point of the last point of the question, it does underline, I, not surprisingly, agree with the last point the questioner made. I mean, what it revealed was you have a Prime Minister who most of the Cabinet would like to get rid of, but it took them several hours to decide. They couldn't agree who they were going to replace him with. You have a Prime Minister who wants to sack the Chancellor and has tried to get rid of him once and won't actually describe the economic crisis in the same terms that the Chancellor uses all the time. They all hate each other. They can recognise the incompetence of the others, but they don't recognise the incompetence that many of them have themselves. And the idea that we have to wait another 12, 15 weeks whilst they try to think of some way in which we can keep this benighted lot in office for another few years is actually faintly ridiculous. I think I hope it's going to turn out to be as farcical as the plot for people to suggest that we should return a broken government that don't trust or like each other and haven't the first idea what to do with the grave national crisis that, unfortunately, we're having to watch them preside over.
Yes, you.
The plot may have failed, but frankly, the longer we can avoid David Cameron, the better for this country.
Do you think the plotters helped or hindered what you would like to see happen?
Well, to be honest, it was a pathetic attempt, and they should be standing behind the leader at this point.
Exactly.
Peter Hain, we know you protested your loyalty very quickly, as one would expect. But
thank you, David.
How long did it take?
Look, people talk about a coup. It wasn't a coup. This thing was over before it began.
Not quite.
It was a complete hours. It was a complete joke. But
let me just remind you of what. Let me just remind you.
The really important thing.
No, hold on.
No, I know you love all this process stuff and the student politics stuff from Ken Clarke. Actually, what the choice for the country is?
David Miliband, the Foreign Secretary, yes, who was mentioned just now. It took him 6.5 hours before he finally steeled himself to say, I'm working closely with the Prime Minister and support the re-election campaign for a Labour government. And then outside his house later he said, my position is absolutely clear. I've spent the day doing government business. Yeah. I mean, it's not much of an endorsement, is it?
What a devastating point, David.
Well, it's not a devastating point. Well, look, I think it is rather devastating.
Look, what I think
Don't you think it's rather damaging?
No, well, actually, I think...
Or is it encouraging that? If you were Prime Minister, what do you say? The Foreign Secretary is so busy. Look, so busy, my Foreign Secretary. Of course he didn't have time to support me. He's busy on important government business.
Have you quite finished?
No. Only if you
Carry on with all this nonsense.
Well, go on, then.
And actually, when it comes down to it, and this is what my constituents say to me, they're not interested in all this nonsense and all this media Westminster bubble stuff. What they're interested in is who's going to determine the future of the country. Who's going to take this country forward so that jobs are protected, so that schools are protected, so that the health service continues to be invested in and continue to perform in the way that it has under Labour. And that is a Labour government will do that, and a Tory government will come in and destroy all of that. That's the problem.
Yeah. But what were Hoon and Hewitt doing then?
Well, you have to ask them.
Believe. No, well, you
I've no idea what they were doing.
Sat in government with them.
I've no idea what they were doing. But
did it damage you?
It was an interesting timing.
Damage you?
I don't think so, actually, because an interesting timing. Gordon Brown performed brilliantly at the last parliamentary questions, just at the time this coup, so-called, was supposed to fall flat. And then this week he did the same thing. He's wiping the floor with David Cameron. I think people are starting to see that Cameron represents a very slick operation. He's very good on TV. But actually, when you put him under pressure, what does he stand for? The only policy he's committed to is £200,000 inheritance tax cut for the 3,000 richest people in this country.
Right.
Now, that shows what the modern Tory People's Party stands for.
Actually, although Peter doesn't know what the effect of the coup was, everybody else does, there was a whole stream of loyal ministers then went in to see Brown and said, this is what I want, otherwise I'm voting with this lot, and you're out. And so Harman got what she wanted, various others got what they wanted, Mandelson got what he wanted. Actually, it hobbled Brown. Brown is now sitting in the corner there, eating his digestives and wondering, is this really what I came in to be Prime Minister for? He's got no power. And the other person to get a benefit was David Cameron, who, it is true, was anywhere between a sort of 9, 10 or 11 points ahead in the polls, and there's now 14 and 15 points ahead in the polls. So people actually... so Hoon did do a job. Now, you may not approve of the job, but he certainly hobbled the Prime Minister. And, by the way, this is not going to go away, and this will be part of the process right up to the election, and it will damage Brown. All
right, let's hear from some members of our audience. I'll come to you, Chris, in a moment. The man there in the front row, you say yes.
I think people are just sick of the lies, the spins, the reshuffling, and the mumbo-jumbo that goes to the Labour government. Simple as that.
But can I
hold on a second. I'll come back to you in a second. The man in the striped shirt there in the